Number 3, I don't believe that the Ravens are positioned nearly as well as they were last season. They lost 3 offensive linemen in Simpson, Zeitler, and Morgan Moses. On defense, they lost Clowney, Geno Stone, Patrick Queen, 2 defensive backs who were at least in the rotation, Rock Ya-Sin and Ronald Darby. And oh yeah, by the way, they lost defensive mastermind Mike McDonald to go be the head coach in Seattle. They have a first-place schedule unlike last year. They start the season with 3 of 4 games against playoff opponents. They end the season with 4 of 5 games against playoff opponents. And in the middle, they play 3 of 8 against playoff opponents from last year and 2 games against the Bengals. So for all those reasons, anyone believing that they are going to be able to repeat last year's success where they had a top 3 offense, a top 3 defense, where they looked from up until the kickoff of the AFC title game to be the best team in football, I just don't believe you. The number 2 thing that I do not believe is that Robert Saleh and Aaron Rodgers are on the same page.
Oh my God.
I understand that when asked about it, they both tell you it's all good. And I understand people's gut reaction of Saleh only is there because Rodgers wanted him there. Why would Rodgers want him there if they're on the same page? I think Aaron Rodgers likes the fact that Robert Saleh knows I had a lot to do with you still being here, and therefore we're going to kind of run things the way I would like to run. And I think there was the first crack in that armor was shown in that post-mini camp absence press conference. We then saw more times when Aaron, as coaches pointed out, would publicly not go after Robert at all, but just be like, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I'm not playing in the preseason. We hadn't talked about that. That's news to me. Just further signs that these 2 guys are not exactly on the same page. And that, if I'm being honest, is my biggest concern. One of my biggest concerns about the Jets is the stability of the coaching staff as a whole and the Rodgers-Saleh relationship. And the last thing that I simply do not believe is that the Dallas Cowboys actually want to re-sign Dak Prescott. If they wanted to, they would have. And I understand there are reports, oh, they've made him this offer, they've made him that offer. I think they know the type of offer it would take to actually get Dak to sign. And I think they smartly, by the way, don't want to commit to him right now. If he can have an MVP caliber season, a 3rd straight 12-win season, have a career year across the board, and still that quickly in a home playoff game against the youngest team in the league, look that out of sorts, look that deer in the headlights, I don't know that they want to commit to the next 4 years of him being their signal caller. So I think they are trying to play the PR game of course we'd like Dak back, while never presenting Dak with an offer they expect him to take. Those are the 5 storylines from this season that I simply do not believe in.
Pretty good.
Greg Jennings.
Look, I like those storylines. There's a few that I don't believe in as well, and the one that I want to highlight is number 4, Sirianni and Hurts, because I believe it would be better served for this entire team and organization if they would just say, there was friction there. There was definitely an issue, and we're working through it, and be honest, and get that out in the air so that it's not a cover-up. Because what's happening right now, and I was reading the article, and forgive me, I can't remember who it was, but it was Darius Slay was making a statement about Kellen Moore, who's their new offensive coordinator, and it said something to the point of, Kellen Moore is finally giving Jalen Hurts the freedom to be elite. Kellen Moore, the coordinator. Well, you mentioned it in your great rundown of Nick Sirianni being an offensive-minded guy. He was a play caller. He was questioned, are you calling plays? Did you call plays? Were you in charge of plays? Yeah. But if Kellen Moore is allowing this to happen with Jalen Hurts, and there is one thing that Nick Sirianni disagrees with, and he sits in that meeting room, and he's like, I don't know. This pops up. It will be an issue because if you bring somebody in that you didn't get to select. By the way, Nick Sirianni, head coach, he didn't get to select Kellen Moore and say, hey, I want that guy. That wasn't this deal. When your quarterback has an issue and we know that it's out there and you're riding on a golf cart, and Last Dance reference, when Doug Collins and Michael Jordan had an issue, we saw Doug Collins say, Mike, are we good? He comes on and kisses him. We're not going to see that. in what you just displayed, talking about it's not hatred. Yeah, because there's an issue. And as long as they're winning, everything will be fine. Coach, you can speak to this more than anyone. As long as we're winning, it covers up a lot. The moment there's adversity and they start to lose games, this will come out and it will unravel.
And I would just add, last year, it's kind of got lost in the shuffle. Everything wasn't all good, even when they were winning.
Yeah.
Even when they were winning, there would be weird post-game press conferences. Folks talk about, you don't know all the stuff that's going on, but Jalen said, you don't know what you don't know. A.J. Brown was alluding to it. So even when they were en route to 10-1, there was real strife, and then obviously it fell apart at the end.
Yeah, I think I'm too harsh on Nick's list because when I looked at this the first time, I'm like, these are just so obvious. Like, I live in Cleveland. I don't think there's anybody in the city that believes Deshaun Watson is the answer. So I was like, oh, that's an easy one that Nick just laid up. And then the Sirianni-Hurts one, that article was too well sourced. There's been too many people that have talked about the issues that they have, but they're married and they've got a mandate and it's got to work together. So the relationship isn't good. It just has to be working good. But I thought you kind of mailed that one in too.
You agree, but you're insulting him at the same time.
I liked.
He's saying I took the easy option. He's
yeah.
calling it the low-hanging.
Well,
now we get to the Ravens.
I was waiting for him to be like, oh, the earth is flat. I don't believe that either. And then the Ravens, that one I was actually surprised by, and I thought that was a much hotter take.
Thank you.
The Rodgers Salah, well, we're all in New York. We hear them talk all the time. Like, okay.
I'm saying it was why I don't believe it.
Yeah, nobody believes. I can't imagine anybody believes it.
Okay.
But all right, and the Dak one I thought was could go either way. So I'm going to add my low-hanging fruit to it.
Yeah.
I don't believe that Jerry Jones. Nobody's a bigger fan of Mike McCarthy than Jerry Jones.
Oh.
So I'm going to throw on Nick's list, in the spirit of his list. That's the one I'm going to add to your.
Maybe we.
Okay, so I already talked about the Eagles. There seems to be that this has become a more dominated Eagle segment. And I already made a video within this, and I did the whole thing. So if you're watching this and you're like, oh, is he going to talk about the Eagles? I posted that. I'm posting both these videos at the exact same time. And so I already did like one where it was pretty much all centered around Sirianni and Hurts. It's just the way how it kind of unfolded. I feel like the segment actually was kind of pretty disorganized and very long the way they did it. So honestly, this has been one of the more difficult videos that I've had to kind of address because they're not really kind of unpacking these one by one in a way that I think is personally very efficient. So I'll just quickly add, because I'm just going to now do 1 through 3 since I've already done 4 and 5 in the previous video. But for 3 with the Ravens, I do echo some of Nick Wright's concerns. I do. I really do have question marks about the Baltimore Ravens. I really need to see what they look like this season. I do think some of the losses and some of the coaching is a legitimate concern. I don't know. I don't know who Lamar Jackson is going to be this season. I really don't. And I don't know what even the coaching approach is going to be, what the game plan is going to be. Because if it's just going to go back to him just being back to being like an old school runner, and that's why he wanted to lose some weight and stuff like that, I think that's great for a flashy regular season, but not so great in the playoffs. You need a more nuanced, in-depth game plan. Now, granted, they needed to run more in the playoffs against the Chiefs, but you know what? I mean, that was also against the Chiefs who were a more limited offensive team, despite having someone like a Patrick Mahomes. And I think this year there's potential to have, the Chiefs should be better offensively. The Texans will be better offensively, right? You have these other teams that I think, last year kind of in a way, the playoffs kind of unfolded in a more defensive-oriented, more defensively led games, or it came down to more, defensive issues than anything than offensive greatness. And I don't know if this season will go that way. So you might need to have to really put up some points. So I just don't know what that means for the Ravens. I'm the first one to admit it. I really genuinely do not know. I'm not counting out the Ravens. I'm not saying, oh my God, they have no chance, so I wouldn't put them on this anti-Bud list or whatever. But I do echo the concerns that Nick has, but how extreme do I feel that they are, or how much weight do I put in them? Not a tremendous amount to me. It's just a question mark. The Robert Saleh and the Rodgers thing, I mean, Nick is just really kind of reaching and just pulling, and he just wants to constantly paint Aaron Rodgers in a negative light. I get it. He does not like Aaron Rodgers. I get it. But this whole thing that Aaron Rodgers and Saleh aren't on the same page, and so that also is somehow, a major issue. I disagree that matters fundamentally. Yes, in a perfect world, you want your head coach and your quarterback and all these people to get along and sing Kumbaya, and that's great. I get that. But Robert Saleh can run a defense. He can. He does get his side of the ball right. And you know what? At the end of the day, that's what Rodgers really wants. Because Rodgers is cocky and confident enough to say, I got the offense. So as long as you got the defense, and that's sometimes how those relationships are. It's like, I don't like you, you don't like me. But you take care of your business. You take care of what you need to do, and I will respect you. That's all I'm asking for you to do. And that's a dance that you do with a lot, especially in sports. Even in pickup. For those of you who played sports competitively, where you could look at this either from your own team or even playing against players that you fundamentally don't like. And it's just like, as long, and it's obvious, right? I don't like you, you don't like me. But as long as you do your job, let's go. I've played sports with players, whether it be football, baseball, basketball. I feel like a better analogy here is basketball, because there's way more communication throughout the entire game. And I played with people who fundamentally hated, right? We hated each other. But when we were on the court, when it was time to compete, you would have never known, right? Well, we stepped up together. We passed each other the ball. We fed each other the ball. We did the things that we needed to do. We set picks. We played collaborative, complementary ball together, right? Like that's what you do when you're a grown-up. And so this is even easier to do that because they're not on the field together and they're dealing with completely opposite sides of the football. So it's one thing if Saleh was if he was the offensive brains and he was the coordinator, right? Or he was like, calling the plays and designing the plays and really had a big, his DNA was all over that offense. Then yes, I could see that being a problem, but that's not the case. And so I do think Rodgers wants to win. He wants to win. He is not dumb. Listen, I think Rodgers has made his share of mistakes, but he's not dumb. He knows that he needs to win here, that he needs to be successful with the New York Jets. He knows his reputation is on the line. He'll be able to explain it away if they don't win. He will. He's a man of many words, as we know. But at the end of the day, he wants to win. And he knows what Robert Saleh is capable of doing defensively. And he respects that. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gone to New York. I just don't believe that. So this idea that this is like just like this big, massive story that can just completely pull down the Jets, no, I don't think so. It'll be a story if the Jets lose, but it won't be the reason. They'll try to make it the reason, but it's not the reason. And then Dak, yeah, I mean, I just don't know what the Dallas Cowboys are doing. I really don't. They're gonna wait to see if Dak can win another 12 games. Like, okay, what are we talking about? You can win your 12 games, then get rocked by the Packers. It's just like I don't understand. What are we talking about? I feel I'm so exhausted by just making that same video again and again and again about Dak. The Dallas Cowboys don't want Dak. And you know what? And if that's the case, then why don't they lock down Micah Parsons and CeeDee Lamb and say, yo, we paid these guys. We don't have enough money to pay you the $65 million that you want. So we can pay you $50 million or $55, whatever it may be, if whatever they're willing to give him, and say, Dak, take it or leave it. If not, listen, we have to take care of Mike and CD. If you want to tell Micah and CD that you want more money so they get less money, go tell them. You go march in the locker room, look CD in the face, look Mike in the face and say, I want more money, so you need to take less. Go do that. That's what I would honestly say. And if not, then you have to be okay taking a slightly more team-friendly deal. And if the Cowboys are unwilling to do that, then I don't know what you're even doing with Dak Prescott at all. Because if you don't even want Dak Prescott at a discount, or you don't even want to try your best to get that set up like that, well, then I don't know what you're doing. I really don't. And at this point, then I would have tried to move on from Dak somehow. I would have said, Dak, we're obviously not going to keep you. You're not trying to take a better deal. We don't believe in you. We're going to try to move you to the Falcons. Like, why? They should have done this before then. The Falcons are desperate for a quarterback. Maybe the Raiders want a quarterback. We're going to move you. Otherwise, we're just going to actually sit you. You're not going to play for a whole year. We don't care. We'll eat the money because we don't think we can win with you anyway. So why trot you out? We don't believe in you enough to give you to even try to offer you a discounted deal then at this point, or like a reasonable deal. then we have no desire to trot you back out. We're going to try to see if we can at least get something in return for you. And do you really want to sit out for a whole year? Because we're just going to play Trey Lance. Because honestly, if we win, that's great. Hey, Trey Lance is great. Or if we lose, great. We're going to have a better draft pick now. But there's no point in trotting you back out, winning 11, 12 games, and losing in the first or second round. We've already done that years in a row now. Why do that again? So we'll say, Dak, waive your no trade clause. And we'll try to get you to a better team where you'll actually play, and then you'll get your money. You're not getting it from here. And see what he says. And if he doesn't want that, if he says, "No, I want to be the free agent," then it's like, all right, fine. Then we're just not going to play you. And I know that's unconventional. I get it. But why just keep doing the same thing again and again? I just really want to know who in their right mind believes that Dak Prescott is going to play this season and actually compete for a Super Bowl. Because if you really believe that, I'm at a loss for different ways to tell you that I just don't see how that's even possible. I just don't see how it's even remotely possible. And like the caveat that I always give is it could have been maybe potentially possible if they got rid of Mike McCarthy and went out and got a Bill Belichick, a Harbaugh, any of these other coaches. Then I could understand. Then at least it's something different, something new. Maybe they add a Saquon Barkley. If they beefed up their roster, then I could understand, but they didn't. You can make the argument that they got worse. And now that they're getting worse, you're now going to try to evaluate Dak Prescott. It makes no sense to me. It just makes no sense. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about, I guess, the top 3 for the anti-Bud list? About the Ravens, Rodgers, and Saleh, and Dak. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.